Firstly, thank you very much for accepting my invitation and accepting to be on my show.
Anytime, anytime.
So I've gone through your profile and I came to know that you are into army for 16 years and recently you have entered into AWS and you are preparing for solution architect level certification.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's great. And you came to England before 2 years.
Yes, yes. Been here for a couple of years. I was only in the Air Force, actually, the American Air Force for about 4 years, but that was a long time ago.
So can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Yes, my name is Justin Henderson. At the moment, I'm an IT professional trying to break into AWS architecture. So just taking a course and just trying to get on up it.
So how does you are into army and you worked for England Army or
No, no. I worked. I was in the Air Force, in the American Air Force, and I used to work on avionics on the F-16 aircraft. So it was good times. Then I got out to go to college and whatnot, and then I moved here to England. Got into IT. Moved here to England to be with my wife, and just taking steps forward. You know what I'm saying?
so before talking about AWS, your journey into AWS, how this transition, how this shift happened to you? What made you to come into IT? Because you are already into air and seeing, understanding the aircraft and trying to understand something which is into the space.
Yeah. Well, so before I left America, I got into, well, just very quickly after I got out of the Air Force, I got into other fun stuff like bartending and managing like food service halls and stuff like that. And then I started to think, I was like, that's a waste of my potential, you know? So I got into more technology. And then little by little, I started to learn a little bit more about networking and stuff like that. So then when I moved to England, I had to take a pretty low level IT job because my skills where I was at in America were not very easily transferable. So I've worked there for a couple of years and I started to take this course. I was doing just webinars on anything technology because basically my whole goal in life is next year I'm going to be in a better spot than I am this year. So it was all about, I was in IT already. I started doing these webinars, anything technology, just to grab a little bit of technology knowledge. And I saw this one for AWS, and I was like, that sounds very, very interesting, and very in line with what I'm doing now. So if nothing else, if I can't get a job in AWS regardless, the knowledge is still very helpful for what I'm doing for anything that I would plan to do in the future. So, regardless, it's going to strengthen me in any way, shape, or form.
So what is your first job in IT?
In IT, so I was first level in the schools that I used to work at, first line IT, which is, pretty much my forte. I'm very customer centric. So anybody that calls me and talks to me, I'm pretty easy to talk to. I understand what they say. I think the biggest problem that a lot of people have in IT is that they don't really get along with their customers very well. So I'm the type of person, I guess, with my bartending experience, it helps me feel people's problems a little bit more, be a little bit more empathetic, basically. So at current, in my new position, it's more implementation. Basically, we have a service desk that I have to make sure that they're doing what we're paying them to do. And I'm trying to bring everybody, basically my company buys a bunch of different companies and I have to bring them under the same IT umbrella. So it's a lot of implementation about DNS and tenancies, like Office 365 tenancies. So it's all bringing them under the same thing because right now we have different spokes and hubs that work under a whole bunch of different IT models. And it's very challenging to bring them under the same model. So the good thing is that, with me taking my AWS course, it's helped me have higher level discussions, and now I've touched on the Google Cloud, I've touched on the Azure Cloud, and I see that they're all very similar, but AWS is pretty much where I'm at right now.
So how much you understood about cloud, especially AWS?
So it's funny. Before I took this course, absolutely nothing. Now I see the benefits. I see how easy it is to transition to the cloud. Especially with AWS, it's more secure than anything else. I see that all the places that I used to work in. So after I got out of bartending and stuff, I used to pull a lot of cable and data centers and stuff like that. All that stuff has helped me see how the cloud really is. The cloud is basically just a virtual data center for you. Uh, the knowledge that and trust me, I have a long way to go, a long way. Oh, there's a lot of knowledge out there that I need to cram into this little head of mine. But now I can understand what's going on. I can architect a couple of solutions. I'm with a club, Cloud Brew Club, and that's just basically a bunch of AWS enthusiasts that were in my class, and maybe a cohort after mine, and maybe a cohort before mine. There's like 5 or 6 of us that AWS enthusiasts that we're going to be building solutions, building our portfolio, showing what we can do, helping each other out. Basically, the biggest thing is about our group is how wonderful and supportive everybody is. Honestly speaking, I'm the furthest behind. I'm the only one that hasn't passed my solutions architect yet, and all my teammates right there behind me, pushing me, uplifting me. They're just great. So I understand a lot more about cloud than I thought. And then it's funny because I feel kind of dumb in it sometimes, but I actually know a lot more than I think I know. Let's just put it that way. My instructor tells us that all the time. They're like, "Yeah, you trust me when I tell you you're smarter than you think you are."
So how many solutions that you have done till now?
I've only built personally. I've only done the absolute most minor, just WordPress things. We're getting into cloud, into CloudFront and what you call it? Sorry, uh, into containers and stuff like that. That's what we're starting to build. I have yet to really reach that level between working and studying, family. My little dog takes up all sorts of time. Between all that stuff, I'm finding it very difficult to juggle. So right now I'm focusing on studying. So I haven't really built as much as I should be building, even though my instructor's really kind of on my behind about it because he's like, unless you build it, you're not going to really understand it. So I haven't built any fully functioning functions yet, but that's me and the Cloud Brew Club. That's exactly what that's all about. It's all about us building stuff and learning from each other and learning from it. A lot of my colleagues are way ahead of me, but like I said, they're very supportive. And whenever I have a question about something, I'm like, how did you build that on that? How does that little bit of code work on that? So until I pass my solutions architect, that's when I'm going to be really serious about actually building stuff and actually being able to prove myself.
So what is the role of solution architect in cloud?
A solution architect basically just comes up with the best way to build a solution depending on the customer's needs. So, with me not actually being a solutions architect right now, I couldn't tell you the day in the life of one, what per se. But a lot of people in my academy, they've gotten roles as technical account managers, and that's really all about telling the customer, basically being a subject expert. But basically, if I know that they want a solution that's up all the time, completely available, they can't lose any data. They have to make sure that if something fails, that it's got something to back it up. Solutions architect is the person that actually sits there and says, this is the best way you do that. This is how much it can cost you. This is what do you want to do to make this either work within your budget or work correctly and the best way possible. Because unfortunately, the best way possible is going to be expensive. So it depends on your customer's capabilities. Just like if you see behind me, the well-architected framework. It's the reason why I have it up is because this is what my instructor tells me I need to have plastered all over the living room walls, all over. I've got a mug of the well-architected framework because that's what you think about every single time, cost optimization, security in general. And like right now, security is huge in my job that I'm in right now. Just everything that's going to make it work the best way that it could possibly work.
Can you tell some requirements of the clients that you need to for which you need to find the solutions as a solution architect?
Well, so with me being at the low level that I am, I haven't really had very many. I've actually only had one that I can actually say that I've actually done any work for. And with me being, because I can't sell myself as a solutions architect without the solutions architect associate exam underneath my belt. I've got the cloud practitioner or whatnot, but for instance, I have a friend and him and his sister have built a solution, and they did it with no AWS experience at all, none. Which actually still is like really good, But I mean, they're very smart developers and programmers and whatnot. But with my limited knowledge and looking at their solution, I was like, and all I had them do was basically give me access to your solution, just so I could look at it and give you some notes. And I saw like very big security risks as far as like, for instance, like they had their database in a public subnet, something you definitely don't want to do unless you want people to be able to attack your subnet. Don't get me wrong, there's other layers of protection and whatnot, but I told them that, yeah, that's not what you need to do. They didn't have their DNS hosted on Route 53. It came up as a really badly architected website. So it was a very, let's put it this way, it was a very unprofessional, website name. When you put things in general, it's like, S3 bucket slash EC2, blah, 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 blah. And it's all that stuff. When you're running a business or you're running a website, you want it to have something that connects you to the website. So I hipped them to that. I was like, okay, that's not something that you want to have shown, like I said, the database thing, there was a couple of things, like they had a couple of elastic IP addresses that they weren't using. So I was like, if you're not using it, you're getting charged for it. Let it go. Unless you have something to it. So basically saving them a little bit of money here and there. And then, I gave them basically a blueprint on how to at least make that better. It still wasn't what we would consider a well-architected thing, but as long as I helped them take a step forward, I didn't know what exactly their budget was or whatnot, so it was little things like that. But that's really to the extent of what I have done at this moment in time.
So how many services you understood and how many you can implement?
Oh my. Well, out of the hundreds of services that AWS has, I'm still really, if I have to break it down, I know of maybe only about 15 or 20, to be honest with you. I mean, anything from cloud formation to, the RDS servers or Aurora. We're working with Lightsail. Working with containers right now, so the ECS service. So I've touched on a few, but as far as actual real knowledge, check with me in 6 months, and then I have a lot better understanding going on for you.
So when you started learning AWS services?
March is when I started. Yeah, I started in March. Been mentoring, after when I got to a certain point in my studies that I was allowed to mentor, mentored quite a few people, a couple of cohorts. And, it's helpful. The one thing that you have to get them to understand first is that, like, I'm not an AWS guy. You know what I'm saying? So, half the time, sometimes I've got this guy, he'll send me a message at like 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and I'll answer him, and then I'll like look it up and make sure that I've given him the right answer. I've had him like text me again at like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, dude, have you been studying all night long or all day? So but yeah, since March, I feel like with my schedule, I'm not as far as I should be just yet. It gets hard when you got to juggle your normal life. And, I recently changed jobs. So it was like a month of basically trying to get my last job to a point that didn't leave them messed up, and trying to study at the same time and trying to mentor. And it set me back a lot. But, yeah, I guess the simple answer was since March.
So you have AWS Cloud Practitioner certification already.
Yes, sir.
So how many services you have learned? Like you said, 14 to 15 services that you learned, and starting from March of this year, so March or April. So how many services that are needed to in order to get this cloud practitioner certification?
The cloud practitioner certification is very, for lack of a better word, it's very basic. It's enough to let AWS know, or whoever knows about the cloud practitioner know that you're interested in the cloud and that you know enough about the general workings of the cloud. The biggest struggle for me has been shifting from that cursory knowledge to a knowledge of really and true implementation. So yeah, with the cloud practitioner, the CCP, I've got a lot of my mentees that have taken the cloud practitioner exam. It's as long as they're interested, they study, they do a little bit of AWS every day. I suggest like 2 hours a day. That's what's been suggested to me. 2 hours a day at least. Do something about AWS. Just check yourself. I don't care if it's like listening to a podcast or something like that. This is knowledge that has been given to me by people that I look up to. As long as I might be on the bus and I might look at a website that's telling me something, or hey, what is ECS versus Fargate, little things here or there, just to kind of keep your head in motion in the cloud thing. Now, with me also, I I think a lot about implementations while I'm working, but that works for me since I'm in IT. A lot of my colleagues in the cohort, they don't have a single bit of IT experience. And there are people that have no IT experience that now know, they're on their way towards being architects, technical access manager, account managers, and stuff like that. A lot smarter than me. I work and I hang around with a whole bunch of really smart folks, and it helps out a lot because, you have to hang out with like-minded people in order to get that way. So luckily, they're all lifting me up.
So you said that your IT experience helped you in understanding AWS services better. So what you did exactly in IT before coming into AWS? What was your work?
Before I got to England, I was actually studying for my CCNA, so it was networking. So when somebody tells you they work in IT, that's because They don't want to exactly get into it because a lot of laymen don't know. The layperson doesn't know exactly what you do. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of IT is it's very spread out, so you have people that can say, oh, hey, I'm a developer. That's IT. Or they can say, I'm a network engineer. That's IT. The job that I did before I got to England it was kind of a mixture between a bunch of stuff, monitoring, DNS, networking. I got here, I had to go to first line support, which was understanding more. Sorry about that. Which was a little bit more about understanding Office 365, Azure, Active Directory, tenancies, stuff like that. So yeah, I've been up and down in a couple of different, like I like to think of myself as a jack of all trades, master of none just yet. And like I said, check with me in 6 months or so, and hopefully I can tell you that I'm a master in AWS.
So, so you have understood 14 services till today. So, and also you said some of the solutions that you did. So, what is your observation about if you become a solution architect and if you are in that position? So, what you are going to do?
At the moment, that's not very clear to me, to be completely honest with you. I would love to apply to be a solutions architect at some point. I'd love to get to that level of knowledge and self-confidence. Being at my current job has got me kind of thinking a little more multi-cloud because a lot of places they don't like to put their eggs all in one basket. And from what I can tell thus far, um, cloud different cloud platforms, it's almost like using a different phone. You know, you've got your iPhone that uses its own thing. It's got its own set of rules. You use an Android, and it's got its own thing. Sorry. So I'm thinking I have to get to a level where I can actually feel confident in myself, and then I'm going to have to look. Obviously, the end game is to be a solutions architect. But, like I said, at the end of the day, the knowledge is helpful in a whole bunch of different arenas.
Is it important to have? Is it important for you to have the programming knowledge in order to get AWS Solution Architect Associate Level certification?
No, no. So far, no, don't get me wrong. The programming aspect of it looks like it'll be very helpful. But there are white pages and I mean the great god Google is very very helpful in trying to find any bits of code and stuff that you need. What you need to do and what you learn to do as you progress is know how to read the code for the most part, and little by little all falls into place. But as far as actually knowing the code, that's more of a developer's job. Now, if I planned on moving over to an AWS DevOps type of arena, absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, it would be helpful, but I know I'm having a hard time even right now. Even knowing that I'm IT, I have a hard time right now even running PowerShell scripts. Let's put it that way. I'm scheduled to take my AWS Solutions Architect exam on the 4th of December. And a lot of these JSON codes and whatnot are still jumbling my brain. I'm not going to lie. So short answer to your question, no, you don't have to know the programming.
Is it important to have a technical background in order to get a solution architect level position in a company? Do they ask any experience, technical experience?
So from one of the guys that I look up to, He's very relevant in our cloud community in our AWS Academy. He A year ago he was stocking shelves in Aldi. Didn't have a single bit of technical experience or know-how at all. But he's very well known on the YouTube circuit, podcasts, LinkedIn. He's got all sorts of stuff, and it actually shows his absolute and total passion for it. And the man is now a technical account manager as well as a champion instructor in our academy. There are many people that are in my academy that have progressed. We've got I don't know what her previous experience is, but we've got another person that is a technical account manager. We've got a couple of folks that have been through the academy with that I am quite sure have no technical experience that are in AWS roles. So, as far as getting that close there to that point, I couldn't really help you. You know what I'm saying? As far as giving you a solid answer on that. But from the community that I've been with, there are people without a lick of technical knowledge before they started studying AWS that are now in AWS roles.
So, what do your colleagues or people who are studying with you or your trainer uh, tells you about solution architect level position, and what are their advisors that help you in learning faster or better?
Besides actually getting hands-on with it, it's immersion basically is the best way to say it. And these folks, we have chat groups and stuff like that, and sometimes I have to mute my phone. Like when I'm at work or whatever, sometimes I have to mute my phone because they're chatting back and forth. Oh, hey, this container's not working, or hey, have you guys seen this YouTube video about this AWS service, or hey, have you seen this? And I've got to be like, oh God, shut up, stop it, I'm working. It's all about immersion. They learn from you learn from different mediums. You get some YouTube videos, you go to some webinars, you do a little bit of book reading, hands-on, building what you can. Like thus far, sometimes I've spun up some stuff in my account just to see how something works, to see how VPC peering works or whatnot. Like I said, I'm still definitely not at the level, but yeah, it's all about immersion from what I've seen, and what my colleagues, especially my smarter ones, have been up to. And it's funny because when I talk to them, they're so into it. We do some revision questions or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, well, that can't be that because of this, and that." And I'm like, "Oh, I gotta elevate my thinking." So it's yeah, it's all about passion and immersion. You have to think it, you have to love it, you have to want to do it, and then you will.
You already have a CCNA certification or knowledge, so why you need 6 more months to understand or to become a solution architect?
Well, honestly speaking, I never actually got to getting my CCNA. I was studying for it. Unfortunately, I have a big weakness, and that is when I'm at work, I actually work, whereas a lot of my colleagues were at work and they were studying to get their CCNA. That actually makes them the smarter ones, to be honest with you. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that before coming here, because trust me when I tell you, getting here was a full-time job within itself, on top of the full-time plus overtime job I was doing over there. So I never completed it. My problem is focus. I was never able to focus in one direction for long enough to do what I have to do. There's day-to-day life, and there's keeping yourself at a good spot where you're at. But I take the slow train. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, I full well wanted to come over here as a network engineer. But with that being said, in my class, there was a network engineer that was trying to become an architect associate. So, that just tells you, honestly speaking, at the end of the day, the cloud is the future. You know, the amount of IT, the amount of technology that's coming out of the cloud is what's going to be basically shaping the world. You know, nobody wants to have a big data center sitting right next to them. Nobody that it's not sustainable. It's not financially smart. You know, to have your own stuff when you can have your your technology sitting in the cloud and you're able to manage it from absolutely anywhere. I don't have to go through 7 layers of security just to walk into a building right now, that kind of stuff. So an answer to your question, to a simple answer to your question, the reason why somebody would go from network engineering to the cloud would be because cloud is the future.
So, which service made you think so much?
I'm sorry?
Which service made you think so much?
Um, oh man, I'm telling you, there's so many services that you look at and you're just like, I need to know more about that. I need to know more about that. We when you're training to be an AWS cloud architect, you get into some things like building stuff at like the EC2 level. And it's something that we always have to tell our mentees afterwards. It's like, because everybody wonders why. Well, why did I have to learn that when I have a container that's going to do it, or I have a serverless architecture that's going to be able to do it, or this or that? And my answer to them is the same. It's the same every time. It's, well, if you do not know the inner workings of a car, you can't operate a car. It's the same thing. If you have to know the bottom level stuff in order to understand how the top level stuff works. So, basically right now it's all containers. That's what's really got me, it's really thinking. And, honestly speaking, before I even took this course, even being around IT a lot, didn't know what a SQL server was until I started this course. I didn't know what a container was until I started this course. And now, like I said, even taking this course, even in my lower in my infancy stage, I was able to talk to my third line engineers more intelligently. You know.
So, EC2, VPC, so seeing and implementing all these services, databases, security, containers, like you said. So all these services. So what are the questions that comes in your mind that you don't understand? The questions that you have and that you don't understand about these services.
Oh my, there's so much that I don't understand. Honestly, my biggest Achilles heel would be the programming aspect of it. I would love to be like a couple of my colleagues that are, I mean, I've got a guy, his name is Wes, and he's able to come up, he's got the Linux background. He's not even in an IT field right now, but he's just one of those guys that like to play with, Linux and stuff like that. I would love to actually be able to write myself my own programs, while implementing my architecture, as opposed to having to look up something, from a GitHub repository and be able to do that. Having worked with Cisco switches and switching and stuff like that, I know about the command line interface. The AWS CLI is, when I got to that section, that was every single example in the book. I was like, okay, CLI, and it gets really cumbersome, but at the same time you see the benefits of being able to use the CLI, and the programming and all that automation. That is what makes your job that much easier, and we're in the job of making our jobs easier.
What is your favorite service?
My favorite service at the low level that I'm at, it's gotta be Docker, ECS, container services. Like I said, at the moment, that's my favorite service, and that's the one that I need to work on even more because, like I said, once I can get that up and running, then I'll feel a lot more confident about being able to actually be a suitable solutions architect for the client.
Tell me about your preparation. How do you prepare yourself, and how much time you spend in a day?
Oh gosh, in a day I usually spend about 2 hours every day, at least 2 hours every day. I've been cramming a lot lately because of the months that I have lost. So of the last 3 weeks, I've actually been getting home and I might sit down for about 20 or 30 minutes and then I'm studying for probably about 3 hours. And it's a mixture between my book studying, looking at a couple of different web, like Cantrell or some YouTube videos. On my academy actually has a SharePoint that some very, very intelligent people have put together with different links towards stuff to study and whatnot. Um, and yeah, about 3 hours a day now is what I put, and that's just because I'm stressing about this test. And on the weekends, like today, I woke up at 7:30. I usually give myself about an hour to wake up, and then I'm straight onto the videos. I'm straight onto the taking notes. I'm straight onto the seeing what's missing here or there. My dog is sitting on the couch and she's just like, "You're home, but you're not home. You're never here for me," you know? So like usually on the weekends, I put in about 6 to 7 hours worth of studying. And that's the way I did it when I first got into, because when I first started, there was so many questions that you just like, I want to keep up. I want to get ahead doing labs and stuff like that. Now I've kind of gone away from the labs a little bit more. And like I said, I get into a little bit more playing onto my actual account. Um, but yeah, about 6 hours on average every weekend, 6 to 7 hours, and then about 3 hours every night. I wouldn't suggest it though. I used to have to tell my mentees, I'm like, dude, give yourself a day where you just don't, But the problem is that when you're in our position, one day of not studying, you actually feel guilty for not studying. You're like, oh God, I should be studying, so you never really get to relax.
Is it important to have AWS solution architect associate level certification or any kind of AWS certifications in order to get a cloud job?
See, that's a really good question. I'm not really sure. Let's just put it this way. I would not, I would not apply for, I would not apply for a spot as an MMA fighter without having trained in some kind of martial arts discipline. You see what I'm saying? So, will it be possible? Probably, but I maybe, let's just put it that way. But you have so many smart people out there that have certifications, that have experience, at least a little bit of experience, that you would definitely have to be in the right place at the right time, I would think, in order to get yourself a job without it.
So, what are the advices that you get from the people who are already into solution architect position?
Uh, the funny thing is that at one point I was the one giving advice, um, because the advice is standard. Pretty much, the advice of the people that have already taken the test is that I had to adjust my study techniques. So I was able to pass the CCP with a very basic study habit, and that was doing the labs. I read the book like a couple of times from front to back. I was able to absorb that. We had revision sessions with my academy 3 times a week. I was at every single one of those participating all that stuff. I was able to absorb it, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was actually even worried about taking that exam as well. And I pretty much smashed it, honestly. Um, but that same type of studying does not work for the deeper level of knowledge that you need to have for a solutions architect. So basically, the people that have been giving me advice has been to change my study habits, to use something like the Cantrill, to do a little bit more building without using labs. Because, let's face it, labs are enough to get you to know how to work your way around it, but you're also just following directions, you know. But I try to take it to a deeper level myself by trying to, while I'm doing the labs, understand why I'm doing the labs, where I could have messed up at. And trust me, I've messed up. I've done labs 6 or 7 times just to get it right. So yeah, that was.
So how many services you need to know in order to get the certification on December 4th?
They seem to focus from the study material that I've had. They seem to focus pretty much on about 10 to 15, about 10 services, I'd say. That's what my study material is showing me, is that I definitely need to know. I need to know about RDS. I need to know about Aurora. Obviously, you need to know EC2s, VPCs. It seems to be a little bit, you have to know ECS. Um, but with that being said, I have been throwing a couple of curveball questions in a couple of mock exams I've been taking. Just a little bit about, kinesis, another one. That's a real big gap in my knowledge right there. Kinesis, um, CDN, cloud distribution network, stuff like that. So yeah, I would say off the top of my head, about 10 to 15 is what I have to know about just to get into my solutions architect. But it's not even, you have to know the deeper levels on the questions that get me. Is that they'll ask, so far during my mocks, it's, you don't need to just know the service. You need to know exactly how that service works, because if you don't, then you're kind of stuck. They ask you real life scenarios. Hey, this needs to be up for this amount of time, or it can't suffer interruptions or stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, then in that case, it can't be like a spot instance, um, for pricing models and stuff like that. It'd be best to be a reserved instance, stuff like that. So it's a lot deeper, whereas like the cloud practitioner was like, oh, hey, do you know of this service? And it's like, yes, okay, yeah, I definitely know that there is a Kinesis out there. This one's going to be, oh, hey, if you need to stream this many IOPS at the same time, if you need to stream this amount of data at the same time, what's the best? So that's where the challenge comes in.
So it is important for you to implement the services practically in order to give the exam.
Um, I would say I would say it's pretty important, because if you don't know how to implement them practically, then you don't really know how they work. So I mean, I could read a book about it all day long, but until I actually see it in action, and which is difficult for folks that are, I'm not making 70 or 80,000 a year right now. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to be careful to make sure that I don't mess up and actually get charged something. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it comes into play. Like, I have to be able to build it, see how it works, and then turn it off. So I do I think that you can take the exam without the practical knowledge? Yes, I think so. And I think I've actually seen a couple of people pass it without that. But I mean, we're talking about really, really smart people too, really, really dedicated.
So you did now, you're ready for the examination. So So what is your observation about, you already gave the practitioner exam and the associate level exam. So what is the difference? You already mentioned um, the questions in this exam will be more about practicality, how to implement it, what happens when you do this and when you do this, when you are doing this. They ask you about the process, or they ask you whether the overview, how the examination will be up to your knowledge.
As far as I could tell, because without having taken the exam just yet, but through just my mock exam questions, it's more of they throw a situation at you. We have a company that runs a data, or runs real-time banking, financial stuff, financial data consistently. You know what I'm saying? They're doing that, and they have to make sure that but sometimes they have spikes in uh, their data usage on like every Sunday morning or something like that. Which one of these services would you use? And then they give you an example of each of the services. And the bad thing is that, they might say, what is the most cost effective? And then you'll have like two services that just don't make any sense. It's like, no, that's a short dead giveaway that it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even make any sense. Then they might have two actual options that are, one of them will work, but it'll be expensive, but the other one will work and be cheaper. So you have to, it's really frustrating when I'm taking my mock exams, because I'm like, wait a minute, could I not have done it that way? And then it's like, oh, but you have to focus on the question. And it's like, oh, what's the cheapest way to do it? So you have to give the best answer.
Have you gave any sample exams in order to understand how the examination will be?
Yes. Actually, we had a revision session a couple of weeks ago with my instructor, and we actually did. It's only like a 20-question sample exam, and as a group, we did well. So, which is kind of good, but it just kind of makes you wonder, like, on the questions that you would have gotten wrong, who talked you into the right answer or something like that. It's like, but unfortunately, with that sample exam with the group, I couldn't see what my own actual weaknesses are. And honestly, up to about a month ago, I was getting a little distraught because I was taking like my Wiley exams, the ones that come with my book. I was taking them, and first time 30%, fine, no problem. Study for about another month, take it again, getting a 50% on it. I was like, okay, not a problem. Let me study for another couple of weeks. I should be, should bone up, at least see some improvement. 50% again. I was like, oh man. And then study for another 2 weeks, 50% again. I was like, oh man, it was very deflating to see myself like continuously failing. And then, so I haven't taken an actual mock exam for myself because I'm afraid of getting deflated until after I pass. I got some study materials that I'm looking through. I want to look through them all, get my studying up, see where I'm at then, because then I guarantee you I'll be over my 50%. So, it's all about continuing to try, and
So a person who worked for American Air Force, uh, how that person in you is helping you in understanding AWS Cloud Solution Architect associate level examination.
you talk about people that I used to work with, type of deal.
No, the person who is there already in you, who worked for Air Force.
Oh God. I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope to know one day how I'll feel about that, but my connections right now are just with my peers, and we're all in the same boat, all scratching to kind of get up to the promised land, you know what I'm saying? To try to get to that level. So yeah, it's all about, like I said, the only thing that we can think about right now is reaching that AWS job level where we're going to be in a good spot and be able to call each other over Skype or something like that. Be like, oh God, I'm having a problem with this problem. You know what I'm saying? Help me out. Or, guess what I just did for this company, that kind of deal. The good thing is with the group that I'm with, we're a very tight knit group. So it helps. Like joining this academy that I've done is like made me like friends for life type of deal,
So I've done masters in software engineering, and I've done graduation in computer science and engineering. Recently, I've completed. I got trained as solution architect, AWS solution architect level. I know the fundamental services. I have implemented it with my trainer. So right now, I'm trying to explain each service that I have implemented uh, theoretically in my website, smartcheristech.com. So I have done EC2, uh, like 2 to 3 services. I think I have explained. I'm trying to explain more services.
What's the website again, if you don't mind me asking?
Smartcheristech.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, smartcheristech.com. So in which I'm trying to explain. So that's why I'm asking. Without having you have that CCNA certification, that is more about networking, and that actually is a lot related to uh, what you're preparing for. So that's great, and I'm also interested in my subject. My favorite subject in my bachelor's was computer networks. How these
Oh,
computers are connected with each other, how the information transfer is happening, how these devices, routers, all the
mhm.
mediums which are helping people to transfer information between each other in different places in different countries.
Yeah.
So I understood this global infrastructure and
Mhm.
data centers, and I understood what the purpose of the service, the purpose of each service in AWS, why we should use this,
Yes.
where should we use this, and what is the benefit if you use this service instead of this. So trying to compare and trying to understand where it is important to use, and uh, as an architect, it is very important for me to uh, create something which is, like you said, cost effective, and
Mhm.
less time consumption, and
Mhm.
also it should uh, it should be adaptive, and
Mhm. Yes.
try to
Yeah.
understand the requirements of the client, uh,
Yes.
and create exactly what is needed and manage it easily. So
Mhm.
that's what I have created some EC2 services and trying to, ideas, like Route 53. And I've tried
Yeah.
everything. I
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
with everything, and I also done some videos, practical videos. Like
Oh, really?
now right now we are just talking, but a person from England, a person from New Zealand, and a person from US, they have implemented some services, and we are
Mhm.
sharing the screen and how to implement each service, and we practically implemented using AWS free tier account, and there is a website where we can use the services one by one. So some of the free
Nice.
things. So I have that basic knowledge. That's why I wondered, without can we get a job as a solution architect without having a certification or without having a technical background. I have complete technical background,
Mhm.
uh, but I want to work in England. I want to
Yeah.
work in England as a solution architect, but some in US I try to. I already did videos. If you have watched my previous videos, I did videos with. I interviewed people who are already into the cloud industry,
Mhm.
and they are like cloud. They are uh, director of engineering, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and cloud. The top position in the cloud. Is the
Mhm.
top position in the cloud. So uh, I try to understand how things work, the business things work, how they handle clients and all the entire cloud. The
Yeah.
cloud will be in their hands. So I did like that, and implementation also. And now you are, you have IT background. You have you worked in Air Force, and now you just came into AWS and started it, trying to understand
Yeah.
how things are going. So it's really inspiring how you're doing. You learned it very fast, having a
Yeah.
tech background.
Yeah, not fast enough, my man. Not fast enough. Like there's so much stuff that I need to get up on, and like I said, my colleague, my buddy Wes, that man was he's just on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing these guys. One of the guys that came in a cohort after me, he's already a champion instructor. Well, you know, interim. You know what I'm saying? He's working his way to be a champion instructor. So, and he was fussing because he was like, "Oh man, I don't want to be an instructor." I was like, "Man, shut up. You'll be making money being an instructor. Get your foot in the door, get yourself known, and then utilize, because you'll only be doing nothing but learning more as you're instructing, which is like the main reason why I wanted to be a mentor, because helping people helps me. You know what I'm saying? If I have to figure out a way to explain, how an EC2 instance works to somebody, like one of my mentees, he's an arborist, so he didn't know anything about IT at all. He didn't know what an IP address was for the most part before he started. And now this man is asking me, oh, why would we use Fargate as opposed to ECS? And I'm like, that's a damn good question. I had to look it up myself. I was like, yeah, because Fargate, it's the same, pretty much the same thing. I was like, oh, well, the difference between like a dedicated host and, a dedicated instance, stuff like that. He's been asking me questions like that. And I was like, why didn't I think to ask that question when I was in his level, So it's all wonderful and annoying at the same time. It's the challenge that drives us, isn't it?
So at last, what do you say about? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
No, no. As a matter of fact, when you reached out to me, I was like, "Who's that? Why? What?" So I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's have a chat." No, but I'm gonna look you up for sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna look you up because, like I said, it's all about I mean, we make connections, you know what I'm saying? We immerse ourselves and looking, and hell, I don't know. Do you usually have your video on in your videos?
Yeah, I have. I did more than 500 interviews of different country people who are into different professions, especially from tech industry.
Yeah, okay,
Uh,
okay. No, I haven't seen that yet, but like how to's and stuff like that I've seen. So, but yeah, I'm gonna check you out though.
sure. So, what do you say about my questioning in this conversation?
Very good. Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed answering it. At first I was feeling a little bit like, oh, what can I possibly offer in any kind of interview? That's why when you first reached out to me, I was like, are you sure you want to interview me? But yeah, no, I like your question. Thank you. They got
So,
me
can I?
thinking on a level too.
Awesome. So, can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Yeah, of course.
And also, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Absolutely. That's fine.
Yeah, people who are trying to get into AWS, they will understand what you are experiencing and what you are understanding, the way you are trying to
Yeah.
understand. It may help them in improve themselves.
That was another reason why I wanted to be a mentor as well, because going through it, like I've had a guy that I had to be like, dude, you're gonna be fine. Just keep with it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, because we all get frustrated. I got frustrated. You know what I'm saying? And then I had my people in my cohort, be like, Justin, you got this. Don't worry about it. Blah blah blah. we'll sit there, have different, we'll have sessions with each other, you know what I'm saying, over a Zoom call or whatever, and be like, we'll go through some questions and be like, what's going on with you? And I'll be like, I don't understand this and this and this, and they'll explain it to me. And that's why it's all about building community, isn't it? If you got a community, you've always got somebody there for you.
Awesome. So I'm sure you'll give the best in the coming examination, and I'm sure the interest that you have, the focus that you have, the way you are trying to understand and the way you are seeing it, how things work. I'm sure you will. It makes me believe that you will learn services very faster and understand the purpose of everything that is there in the cloud.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. I'll get it. I'll get it. That's for sure. Because you know what? I'm never gonna give up. You know what I'm saying? Never
So
gonna give
don't forget to tell me that after completion of your certification, don't forget to tell
send
me
a message. Yeah.
how
Well,
you
plus you'll
did
see
it.
it on LinkedIn anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll see it on LinkedIn anyway. But yeah, I'll send you a message, brother.
So thank you, Justin. Keep going. Keep doing what you love.
Thank you, Si. Good talking to you, brother.
Yeah. Bye.
All right.